minutes. Joe's not ready. Joe, you ready? Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Genoa Township Board of Trustees meeting. This is a regular trustee meeting. Today's date is September 5th, 2024, and the time is 6:30 p.m. Pat, will you call the roll?
Mr. Antoinette. Here. Ms. Goodman.
Here.
Ms. Vaughn.
Here. Also present, we have our fiscal officer, Patrick Meyer, and we have our assistant fiscal officer and HR director, Donna Batten, our deputy police chief, James Denman, our fire chief, Joseph Ponzi, our director of zoning and development, Joe Schaefer, and our township administrator, Paul Wise. At this time, I'd like to ask those that are able to stand for the pledge, and I'd like to ask Colson Ledbetter to lead us in the pledge. Great. Thank you, Colson. And Colson is here. He is a newly awarded Eagle Scout, and we'd like to recognize him this evening. And Colson, if you would come to the podium, and we'd like to hear a little bit about your, Eagle Scout project.
Hello, everybody.
Yep.
My name is Colson Ledbetter, and I am now a new Eagle Scout. I first would like to thank all of you for inviting me to this Genoa Township meeting, and I will now tell you about my Eagle Scout project. I spent around 3 weeks fundraising money. It was just a GoFundMe app, and then reaching out to people. And then I spent a few days planning with Lowe's and Sunbelt Rentals to get materials from, try to get deals off and all that stuff. And I was successful. Saved a lot of money that way. And around 20 people helped me at different times. I personally spent 30 hours on my project. Now, what was my project? I went to the Delaware Humane Society, so around 20 to 30 minutes away from here, and built an outdoor shelter. I believe they put it on their Facebook page. When you drive on the freeway there, you can see it. And I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm glad I could give back to the community. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Colson. And we have a letter. We have a letter for you recognizing your achievement, and we just thank you and congratulations. Thank you. Come on to you. Very good. Thank you, Colson, and Dad. I'm sure Dad played a big part in that project. Very good. Thank you. All right, at this time, I will turn it over to Pat Meyer for the fiscal officer report.
Thank you. First, I have 3 sets of meeting minutes for your approval, please. July 22nd special meeting, August 1st regular trustee meeting, and the August 20th special trustee meeting.
I'll move to approve the following trustee meeting minutes: July 22nd, 2024, special meeting minutes, August 1st, 2024, regular meeting minutes, and August 20th, 2024, special meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Antoinette? Yes. Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Next, the July 24 financials, everything is balanced and cleared. Currently, our balances are, total balance $22,887,637.04. The pooled investments is $19,533,983.23. And then a primary account of $3,353,653.81. And I'll have these for your review and signature after the meeting. Next, I'd ask for a motion to approve a resolution to accept the amounts and rates from the Budget Commission for the necessary tax levies and certify them with the county auditor as presented.
Okay, I'll move to accept the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor as presented. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Antoness? Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have American Rescue Plan dollars must be obligated or put to a fund to be spent by December 31st of this year and spent by December 31st of '26. So I need to just review with you the status of that, correct? And there we go. So the balance that remains in the ARPA funds is $220,675.03.
Wait, what did you say?
$220,675.03.
Read the top one first. Yeah.
Oh, the total cash balance, I was, okay.
Yes.
Total cash balance of $789,602.75. And we are going to take $387,000 of that and put it into laddering of our investments, correct? The one, I mean, the ladder. The ladder truck. Whenever I hear ladder, I always think about our investment. Excuse me.
The fire department truck.
Fire alarm truck for Joe. The main restrooms at $50,000, and then the remaining $220,675.03, which I mentioned first, will be transferred to the fire fund for additional overtime costs going forward.
Real quick, so since there are remaining funds after the money went into the ladder truck, and there's a couple jobs that are still outstanding. So after discussion with Lauren and the maintenance department, they have amongst probably 15 employees, there's one restroom in their building. And so we'd like to chop out 50,000 at the most to allow for a second restroom facility within the men's room, and then have a second restroom for the women's side. And so if the board agrees with this in principle, we'd like to earmark of the remaining ARPA funds, 50,000 for the restrooms at the maintenance department, if it's okay with you.
So do you think this project will be completed before the end of the year? Like,
No,
what do
it'll
we?
Complete, you just have to encumber the funds
Yeah, but
for the
what,
project.
if we have extra funds, what's going to happen to that?
So what we're going to do is, at the October meeting, if you're okay with this in principle, by that point, Lauren will have purchase orders prepared for
Okay.
the cost. So we'll earmark the funds by the end of this year. It'll be by actually the October meeting.
Yes.
And then everything will be earmarked by the deadline, and then we'll have up to 26 to spend the money.
Yeah.
If you look, if I may,
Go ahead.
Let's use the word
trustees?
encumbered.
Encumbered, yes, if I may, trustees. On the second page of the report that we gave you, we have two outstanding purchase orders. One of them is for the Hillmar Playground equipment, and the second one is for Station 2. Lauren came in roughly about $14,603 under budget for the Hillmar Park restrooms. So that was we received more interest than anticipated, so that gave us more of a balance. And then with her, with that project coming in $14,000 less than what was originally budgeted, when when the board approved the expenditures in 2022, and then after we heard her needs, that's when we thought, okay, let's take a closer look at the balance of the ARPA fund and see if there's a way that we could give her, give a proper women's restroom and additional stall for the men, which is completely allowable by ARPA regulations.
So even if you did put the balance of 220,000 over the fire fund, it's 50,000. If you don't agree to that, then the rest would go right to the fire fund, so.
I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure whatever we dedicate, I don't want any money left over, right? Because I'm not giving any back,
No.
right?
Go back.
Right,
We
okay.
promise.
Yes, the 700 that Pat indicated this evening, that is before August's interest payment, so it will be a little bit more. It's not going to be very much. But we did get our second half disbursement, so that may help with our interest income for a few months to give us just a little bit more money to be able to give to the fire fund and help out with their extra labor costs and overtime fees.
Okay.
Is anybody opposed to the restroom enhancements at maintenance? If you've been in the restroom, you'll know that they're needed.
Yeah. So you're giving a chunk to the truck, a chunk for the restroom, and then the rest for fire overtime?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So I assume you're good with that? Okay. 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 I'm on board.
The necessary resolutions for your guys' official approval at the next meeting then.
After Lauren has that.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's all I have unless you have anything for me.
I don't. At this time, I'll open it up to public comment. Seeing none, I'll move it on to trustee comments. Anyone? I don't have anything tonight. I have some things that I'm going to address later, so I'll wait until we talk about that. Okay. So I'll move it over to Paul then.
Okay. Thank you, Board. This evening, there's some easements, et cetera, I'd like to speak with you about. First off, Trustee Vaughn and I met with the Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities recently, and they have funds to spend for disability projects within the county and offered our township the opportunity to apply for some of those grants. So after meeting with them, we decided there was 3 different grants we were going to apply for. The first would be ADA push buttons for the entrance outside and in the vestibule. Will come in handy for HOA meetings, for voting night, and also outside of our main entrance too. When people come in and visit us, push button, the door will open, and it will allow for better access. That grant was submitted because I did get quick estimates from my vendors for that. And so they did approve that grant already. In addition, the other 2 grants we're going to work on applying for, which the vendors are on the other side of the state, et cetera. Joe Schaefer is spearheading a grant that will allow for a looped wire in this room that will connect with hearing aids and offer better hearing opportunities for those that are hard hearing at public meetings. So we're excited about that. And the last grant that we're applying for, which Lauren is spearheading, is ADA playground equipment at McNamara Park. So with the board's approval this evening, I'd like to have the first grant that was awarded approved by the board.
Move to accept a grant revenue from the Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities in the amount of $12,421.11 and authorize the fiscal office to issue a blanket purchase order in the amount of $12,422.11 for an ADA automatic door openers at the Township Hall and Administration Building. Do I have a second?
Second. Just a correction, the second time the figure was announced, it should be 12,421.
Thank you.
It stated 422
Thank
and
you.
11 cents.
Thank you. I'll amend my motion.
And I'll second them.
Thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Antoness?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Secondly, I'd like to ask the board for consensus for 2 items. The first would be a consensus to allow the township to request that the Ohio Public Works Commission grants permission to the township to allow for a sewer line easement over the property of the Freeman Farms property that we have acquired. The second consensus I would need would be for, if that was okay with the board of moving ahead with that, and if it is granted, moving ahead then with an easement that would attach to that easement on the Jaycox Sledding Hill property.
I think, I mean, we discussed this in
We discussed it a little bit
July,
last month.
August.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had questions, and I did talk to Tiffany Mag and
Good.
got all my answers. And as long as there's no conflict with the property, I don't have a problem with it.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
As am I, so.
So we'll prepare a letter and probably have our board chair sign it and
Yep.
have it submitted to OPWC for their consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, another easement. Delaware County Commissioners are in need of an easement, actually two easements. The first would be here at the Township Hall, allowing for a roundabout. They would be acquiring property that will allow for the proper construction of the roundabout in front of our property, and also down the street at Tussock Street Road, that property.
I'll move to approve the Big Walnut Road roundabout easement purchase from the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio, project identified as DEL-TR 109-02.87, parcel 15SH Standard Highway easement and parcel 15TI and T2, temporary construction easement, and accept the good faith offer in the amount of $22,320 for the compensation of the easement, and authorize the Township Administrator Paul Wise to sign on behalf of the Genoa Township Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. Antoness?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
The next easement is
Go
for
ahead.
Tussock.
Okay. I'll move to approve the Big Walnut Road roundabout easement purchase from the from the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio, project identified as DEL-TR 109-02.87, parcel 26SH Standard Highway easement, and accept the good faith offer in the amount of $25,001 for the compensation of the easement, and authorize Township Administrator Paul Wise to sign on behalf of the Genoa Township Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoness? Yes. Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Next, in addition to having an easement for the county out front for the roundabout, AEP needs to move their telephone poles back. They are marked in our property right now, and so it won't interfere with any parking spaces, losing any parking spaces. So I asked the board to approve that easement also for AEP.
Okay, I'll move to approve a utility easement at 5111 South Old South Old 3C Highway to the American Electric Power Company, and authorize Township Administrator Paul Wise to sign the easement on behalf of the Genoa Township Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yes.
Why aren't we getting compensated for this?
Basically, we're not, I mean, all they're doing is moving the pole backward. So,
I mean, it's no different than the easement we're getting to the county.
But it's already an easement for them. They already have poles there. They're literally
it'll
just
be on
moving them.
it will be on the county's easement, actually, once this is all recorded. So,
And we're not losing anything, because I was concerned we'd be losing parking spaces, but we are not.
with the
There's-
granting of the easement to the county, this will fall on their easement,
Okay,
so,
that's fine.
yeah.
That's all.
Roll call.
Mr. Antoness?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Next up, Delaware County is working with the state of Ohio to improve some safety enhancements at State Route 3 and Lewis Center Road. According to the county, they're adding some turn lanes on State Route 3 to allow for better transportation. And so county needs, along the bike trail along State Route 3, the county needs an easement from us allowed near the bike trail that will allow for the project to be completed.
I'll move to approve an easement at Lewis Center Road and State Route 3 to the Delaware County Commissioners for intersection improvements and authorize Genoa Township Administrator Paul Wise to sign on behalf of the Genoa Township Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion. Call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
And lastly, at previous meetings, we discussed the Delco water, redundant water line running across the community gardens property. The terms were changed after trustee Vaughn expressed interest in having it written, spelled out, that the project will take place during the off-season of the gardens. So there should be no issues working with the gardeners. Everything will be returned to the condition it was when they started the project, and all fences will be returned in place. So,
Okay, I'll move to approve an easement at the Genoa Township Community Gardens to the Delco Water Company for waterline main improvements and authorize Genoa Township Administrator Paul Wise to sign on behalf of the Genoa Township Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Motion carries.
just for the board's information, the easement, we will be receiving $4,701 for that easement.
Thank you, Paul.
And I believe that's all I have this evening. Thank you, board.
All right, I will turn it over to Chief Ponzi and Fire.
Good evening, Board. I have no easements this evening to bring in front of you. We'll try to entertain nonetheless. First item on the agenda this evening is, I think you're all aware that we've been exploring the opportunity or the option to update the vehicle that we currently use for our, to tow our boat and also carry our dive team in. We've been looking for quite some time in the literature I included in your packet. We were originally looking for a Dodge 5500 pickup truck, and we contacted Jeremy through Enterprise and also Performance Dodge up on 23 outside of Delaware City there. Those initial estimates from both vendors came back in the neighborhood of $84,000 to $85,000. So we waited, we had time, and then just recently we came across the opportunity. We found the vehicle that meets our needs. It's sitting on the lot. It's actually red, and it came configured the way we want it. And surprisingly, the price was still the same, but the dealer had marked down an $8,000 discount, which then took the total price down to $74,680, which is below the state bid requirements, which are this year of $77,500. So with all that being said, I would request approve a purchase order to Performance Columbus LLC in the amount of $74,680 for the purchase of a new dive truck.
I'll move to approve a purchase order to Performance Columbus LLC in the amount of $74,680 for the purchase of a dive truck for the fire department. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Yeah, where's this money coming from?
Our capital fund, we have funds in our capital fund, sorry, I didn't say that.
And Chief, can you tell me how old your current truck is?
It's a 1999 that was reconfigured. It was a, what we call a brush truck. It had a pumper, small mini pumper unit in the back. And when we started the dive team, we reutilized the truck. It's a 1999 with, I think, a whopping, I don't know, maybe 30,000 miles on it.
Okay.
So we do intend to keep that vehicle as a spare. We don't have anything like if we go out to a fire to pick up dirty hose and equipment, we now currently have to load that back in the trucks, which we really don't like to do. And this would be one of the prime uses for that vehicle is picking up equipment after fires. Anytime we have to go get something big for the station, usually have to try to borrow, and it's not a problem, borrow a pickup truck off of Lauren. It's just gonna, we have no spare vehicles in the department. This will just give us a spare vehicle to have. So, and being that it's so new and such good shape, we're gonna keep it.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Motion carries.
Thank you. The second item on the agenda does not require any formal action by the board tonight, but I just wanted to make you aware and just seek your approval. There is a pretty new program that is out now that is titled the Ambulance Supplemental Payment Program. As you're all aware, we do billing for EMS transportation in Genoa Township. Medicare, Medicaid is the lowest reimbursement agency that we deal with, and that's very typical. We could transport a patient and submit, let's just make the numbers easy, $1,000 bill, and we may get reimbursement for Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid, somewhere between $150 to $300 for that transport. And there's no bargaining, no agreements. They just pay what they believe is the fair amount. This new program, and I included some bare slides for you in the packet. I didn't want to give you the whole 28-page PowerPoint presentation. We're presented with the opportunity that this PCG group, Public Consulting Group, there's a new law that was passed in 2023, and it's now trickling down to the state, and it's mandating that the state departments of Medicaid, Medicare, basically it's going to increase our possibility of more revenue on the patients that are covered by Medicare and Medicaid. And in that packet, I also provided to you, you'll see there, I think there's a list of probably about 7 insurance providers that operate under the umbrella of Medicare and Medicaid. We do get reimbursement from some of those. Not all, probably 5 out of the 7 we get reimbursement from. So it's an opportunity for us to increase our billing revenue. There are no upfront, we're gonna have to submit some data to them to do a study to see whether it would be worth it for us. There's no upfront fee associated with them to crunch the numbers and tell us, yes, we qualify for the program or not. And then the only stipulation, or I don't know if you call it stipulation, the fee, is if we qualify and we start doing the program, their cost to us is 10% of funds we would receive that are on top of the additional funds. So if we were to receive a $200 normal reimbursement from Medicaid, and suddenly that number jumps to $500, then we would pay 10% of that additional $300. And all I'm asking for is, unless there's an objection, I'd like to continue moving forward with this program to see if we qualify to enter into it. And then obviously I would come back and report to you, and probably would require a signature by the administrator to enter into the program. So as long as there's no objection, I'll continue working with the group on this.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense.
Okay, great, thank you. Third, I think everyone is aware of in June of, excuse me, June of 2023, we were awarded a federal grant through FEMA through the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Act for the purchase of new self-contained breathing apparatus. We have recently conducted a competitive bidding process during the months of July and August. We had 2 vendors that bid on the project, which are the 2 forefront leaders in the industry of self-contained breathing apparatus. And we closed the bidding on the morning of August 14th, and an hour later we opened the bids. And the results of the bids are in your packet there. The company of Fire Safety Services was the low bidder at $166,342. And then Atlantic Emergency Solutions, their bid was $174,104.94. Our total grant from the federal government was $170,700. We are obligated to a 10% match on the whole purchase. We have those funds allocated in our budget. We have funds in the budget to pay our match. And Fire Safety Services being the lower bidder, they represent the equipment vendor called Mine Safety Appliances. And then the Atlantic Emergency Solutions represented the other vendor, which was Scott Safety Services, now under the large umbrella of Tyco. I would recommend that the bid be awarded to Fire Safety Services for the amount of $188,724. And if you have any questions of why there's a difference in the price there, I can explain, happy to explain that to you.
Yes, that was going to be my question.
Okay, so the bid was written and vetted through Mr. Fowler's office. And the basic bid was we needed 22 air packs. Those are just the frame and everything that goes with it, and 44 air bottles, and I believe it's 33 face masks. And if your equipment did not include it, the voice amplifier that helps us communicate when we're in a house fire, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the two numbers that I rattled off to you first, was the 166 and the 174. That was the basic bid package. Then each vendor had the opportunity to give us options based on who we selected. So we selected the 166 as the low bidder for the base bid package, and then we went through and selected the options that we wanted to go along with the bid winner, which would be totaled up to $188,724.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. All right, I'll move to award the bid contract for the self-contained breathing apparatus, or SCBA, to Fire Safety Service, and authorize the fiscal office to issue a purchase order to Fire Safety Service in the amount of $188,724, and authorize Township Administrator Paul Wise to sign on behalf of the Genoa Township Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
Second?
Further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. One last item. Would request the board to approve a transfer of 160 hours of sick leave per the Genoa Township personnel policy for one of our new employees, Lewis Middleman. The transfer of time will come from, he was previously employed full-time at Harlan Township Fire Department, and the necessary documents have been supplied to Donna's office for verification.
Okay, I'll move to accept 160 sick leave hours per the Genoa Township Personnel Policy Manual for Lewis Middleton from Harlan Township Fire Department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Just for clarification, it's Middleman.
Middleman.
What'd I say, Middleton? Okay, sorry about that. I'll edit my motion.
Roll call, Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Okay, please. Okay. Sorry, did I say police? Sorry, I'm distracted. I've got notes here. Sorry.
Good
Deputy
evening.
Chief Denman.
Good evening, Board. I want to start off by saying this is the first time in this seat for me, and I'm very honored to be here. We do have two things for the Board tonight. The first is going to be a memorandum of understanding between us and the OPBA union. I believe that the MOU is actually in your packet, but I'll give a quick brief just for public listening. Currently, per the contract, any canine officer here at Genoa Township will get 1 hour of canine care. For example, if an officer were to work a 10-hour shift, they actually work a 9-hour shift, and they get an hour for general canine care. Our situation is a little unique because our canines are therapy canines, and they're also in the school. Our team understands that being in the school and having a dual role does come with a different set of circumstances. In order to accommodate also the school's needs, we have come to a tentative agreement with the OPBA union to reduce that hour of canine down to a half hour during the school year. We will continue to give them, though, the 1 hour during the school breaks when they're not in the school, which will put them in the school for that half hour longer. Is there any questions about that MOU that I could answer?
Okay, I'll move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Genoa Township Board of Trustees and the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Section 16.11, canine handlers in the current Patrol Officers Collective Bargaining Agreement, or CBA. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Can I also ask the board if, would the board be willing to allow Township Trustee Administrator Wise to sign on our behalf for that MOU also?
Should I amend my motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to allow Township Administrator Paul Wise to sign on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
And I will second the amended motion.
Thank you. Should we vote on it again? Okay,
Mr. Antoinette? Yes. Ms. Goodman?
Yes?
Ms. Vaughn?
yes, motion carries. Thank you.
The second item has to do with Christina Duffy. Christina is a employee in our front office. She has submitted her resignation for December 13th of this year. Christina and her husband have always dreamed about moving south for warm weather and to be by the beach. They have found a spot down in South Carolina, which they love, and they're actually going to be building a home down there. Christina wanted to give us a lot of notice so we can plan again for the succession of her position. And while we do hate to see her go, we are very happy for her to fulfill her dream. I am requesting the board to accept the resignation and also to allow us to review our current job description and modify it to better align with our needs and begin our search for a new employee. Christina wants to help us train the new employee and before she leaves at the end of the year.
Okay, I'll move to accept the resignation of Office Administrative Assistant Christina Duffy, effective December 13th, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette? Yes. Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries.
That is all for the police. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think I've spoken to a few staff members, so if you want to bug out, feel free. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Trustee Antoinette for a zoning hearing.
Want to come up? Ready? Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the following hearing. The time is 7:07 PM. I'm going to read the legal notice and ask everyone who wishes to speak to this matter to be sworn in. This is case number ZC 2023-05, Northgate Office Final Development Plan, Romanelli GW LLC, requesting approval of a final development plan to construct two office buildings of approximately 11,700 square feet and 4,950 square feet on approximately 2 acres located along North Gateway on an unaddressed lot immediately northeast of 7107 North Gateway. Property identification numbers 3173-4201-010017, Westerville, Ohio, 43082, currently zoned planned industrial district, also known as Northgate Office, ZC case number 2023-05. This time I ask anybody to testify, stand up, be sworn in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, help you God. I do. I'm going to read in the following exhibits were added or updated. Exhibit G is staff memo dated August 30th, 2024. Exhibit H, staff technical review dated August 30th, 2024. Exhibit I, all public comments received between October 18th, 2023 and September 5th, 2024. Exhibit J, revised plans and materials received August 14th, 2024. At this time, I'd ask Joe for a staff report.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump right into it since we're all very aware of the project and what's being proposed here. So if you recall from the last meeting, the only outstanding issues on this project of concern from the board from July were related to parking. There was a concern about the location of a couple of parking spaces. And I believe Trustee Goodman suggested perhaps they be removed, and I think the rest of the board agreed with that idea. And then if you also recall, the number of spaces overall on the site was of a concern. As I've sort of mentioned to each of you, and as well as the applicant, in reviewing the proposal regarding the number of parking spaces, they have taken out the 2 spaces. I guess I'll start with that, as requested. But reviewing the number of parking spaces and the zoning standard we were applying to this in terms of what we would require, I realized that they had been using the office standard, which is 1 space for every, I believe, 200 square feet, which is how we came up with the calculations we saw previously. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that really doesn't make a lot of sense for this project, because we know both buildings aren't going to be 100% office, given that there's 4 garage doors on the larger building and 2 on the other building, which obviously indicates some of that space on the interior is going to be for storage or something other than office. So then I looked at the zoning standard parking requirement for manufacturing and warehouse, which seemingly was going to be a better fit. But that standard's based off of the number of employees. Well, that doesn't really work here either, because these are being built to spec. We don't know who really the final tenants, how many tenants are going to be, how many employees are going to have. So that didn't make sense to me either. So fortunately, the code does anticipate this scenario where when you have a use, a non-residential use that just doesn't fit conveniently into any other bucket or easily into any other bucket, there's sort of a general parking standard for all other basically non-residential type uses. And when you apply that and to me, that's the standard of best fit in this scenario. When you apply that standard to this site, they are actually well exceed the number of parking spaces that they're required. So at my advice, I told them I think it's best to put forth a revised plan utilizing that standard, which erases the issue regarding the number of parking spaces and also erases a divergence. So they've taken that advice, and that's what you have presented before you this evening. Other than that, the plan is substantively similar to all the prior iterations you've seen. So staff's content with the proposal we've seen. They updated the lot coverage figures to reflect the parking space reduction that they did do. So the site pervious figures improved slightly, I believe. The only remaining comment I have here is just I'd like to see the parking calculations that I just talked about, and that's explained further in the memo, just pasted into the development text, just so people in the future can understand how we got to where we did. And I can't imagine that's going to be a huge issue, and that's one of those things that staff is totally comfortable being a condition of approval prior to them obtaining the zoning permit. So I don't want to drag this out any further, so I'm going to turn it back over to you,
All right.
Trustee Antonetts.
Thanks, Joe, for keeping it brief. Applicant, you have add anything?
I have nothing to add. Joe's covered it, and Trustee Goodman looked at the site. The spaces were removed, and I do have, Joe, on the plan, I actually have how it was calculated right here on the plan, if that's sufficient. I've got what code section, 3 spaces per 1,000.
Yeah, I saw that. Usually we like to have it in the text as well, because sometimes people are looking at one document or not the other, and it just helps
Okay, that's easy.
tighten everything
I
up.
can
So
add that.
you can literally just copy and paste it over, so I'm
Okay.
not
that's
really
fine.
terribly concerned.
That's fine.
Anything else to add, applicant? I have nothing. Okay, I'm going to do the divergence review.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read all 3. There are only 3. 2 of them are related to setbacks. I will add that I have a mild concern about a custom sign standard. And can you address maybe more specific language that addresses a custom sign?
Yeah, so basically what happened here, this was a bit of a unique situation. Our side standards are based on lot frontage. This site being landlocked has no lot frontage. So enforced as written, they were permitted no signs. So at my advice, I said, well, at that point, you're basically going to have to just get a divergence from the entire sign code, because you're going to have to write your own sign standard, because there's no way we can apply this code in this instance. What they come up with, I think, is fair, and I've worked with them on the verbiage to make sure it's something I can enforce. They had actually a lot more in there, and I said, all that stuff's great, but that's all stuff I think you as the landlord can enforce on your end that doesn't necessarily need to be in the zoning text about size of letters and coloring and stuff like that. That's a tenant-landlord issue, not necessarily a zoning thing, especially given the location of this site so far back. Most of these signs are probably not even going to be seen. So I've reviewed the language, I'm comfortable with where they're at, and I think I can work with
Right,
it.
that's fine. So we have 3 divergences. I'm going to read them for the record. Divergence from section 1308.01 to reduce the setback from the east property line to 10 feet. Number 2, divergence from section 1308.01 to reduce the setback from the northern property line to 35 feet. And then the third divergence we just discussed is from section 1804 to allow custom sign standards per the applicant's development text. So I'm going to do is read all of these A through G, divergence reviews, and then we can discuss whether it has any adverse impact. So A is, do any of these divergences promote or not have an adverse impact on the conservation and protection of the natural resources, scenic areas, wildlife habitat, historical and unique natural features of the land, the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Genoa Township, the quality of life within Genoa Township through the protection of the total environment, the prevention of nuisances and hazards, the provision of adequate light, air, and convenient access to property. D, the assurance of the compatibility of land uses which are either adjacent or in proximity to each other. E, the orderly development of all lands within the township to its appropriate use. F, the most appropriate use of land to facilitate and provide adequate public and private improvements. And lastly, G, consistency with the recommendations of the official Genoa Township Comprehensive Plan currently in effect. Do any of these promote or not have an adverse impact on the township? I would suggest they don't.
I don't think so. I think D, E, and G would say that this insulated property is meant to be this type of operation, and thus it is compatible.
I'd agree.
Okay, having said that, I'm going to move to concur with the zoning commission's recommendation of approval and thus approve with modifications of the subject final development plan application submitted by a Romanelli GW LLC to construct 2 office buildings of approximately 11,700 square feet and 4,950 square feet on an unaddressed property immediately north of 7107 North Gateway. Property identification number 3173-4201-010017, currently zoned planned industrial district as further described, detailed, and illustrated in the plans and materials of ZC case number 2023-05, also known as Northgate Office, and furthermore incorporating exhibits A through J, as well as any commitments made by the applicant prior to this hearing, including none. I don't think, right? No other commitments. I further move to approve the subject final development plan with the stated divergences from the following sections of Genoa Township zoning resolution. Section 130801 to reduce the setback from the east property line to 10 feet. Section 1308.01 to reduce the setback from the northern property line to 35 feet. And section 1804 to allow custom sign standards per the applicant's development text. The motion to approve the subject final development plan, which is not subject to referendum, is based on the following findings of fact and conclusion. Generally,
It aligns with our comprehensive plan in that it's in the industrial or commercial district of our planning area 6.
anything else you want to add?
No, we do need to put in there Director Schaefer's reference to updating the text with the parking computations.
Okay, that will go under the condition. Having heard the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, I get a roll call?
Roll call, trustee Goodman,
Yes.
trustee Vaughn,
Yes.
trustee Antonetts.
Yes, motion carried. You're welcome. This ends this part of the meeting. This time is 7:19.
All
Madam
right.
Chair,
Yeah,
hand the
yeah,
gavel
yeah.
to you.
Thank you. And any other business to come before the board before we close for the evening? Okay, I'll end with announcements. September 11th, the Police Advisory Committee meeting. September 12th, Communication Advisory Committee meeting. September 14th, Fishing Day at Hillmar Park. September 18th, Trustees Zoning Hearing. September 24th, Board of Zoning Appeals. October 1st, Fire Advisory Committee meeting. October 2nd, Parks Advisory Committee meeting. And our next regular trustee meeting is October 3rd. At this time, I'll move to adjourn to executive session at 7:20 PM to consider appointment, employment, promotion, dismissal, or compensation of a public employee. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Goodman?
Yes.
Trustee Antoinette?
Yes.
Trustee Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. We're now in adjourn to executive session. I'll move to return from executive session to the regular trustee meeting at 8:04 PM. Do I have a second?
Second?
There is no more business to come before the board, so at this time I'll move to adjourn this meeting at 8:04 PM. Do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call?
Wait a minute.
Trustee Goodman?
Yes?
Trustee Antonetts?
Yes.
Trustee Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. We're adjourned at 8:04. What?